Video archive 56, EVGO long. I think I finally found the format I like, rather than that awkward, kind of stiff introduction reading through my entry points and stuff. I'll just show you the trade on the chart and go from there. I apologize for my heavy breathing. I literally just finished my last set in the gym or in my bedroom. All right, here's my trade on EVGO. My entry 260, stop loss set at 227, below this previous low. I'll get into some more structural components to describe that stop loss in a moment. Exit 377, gain 45%. Trade duration was 14 trading days. So it went from April 15th to May 6th. Okay, so my entry on this has a couple main components. One is structural, and the other is an RSI signal that has a 100% backtest rate. I've probably talked about that signal before in previous EVGO trades. This is not the first time I've taken this trade. As you can see, I'll just quickly do a breakdown of this chart. There's two phases in price action and one phase change. That's a wide circle. I'll be more precise. That's the moment. And you could argue it wasn't confirmed until this retest of the channel on this candle right there, where the phase change occurred. But in this area, you can see there's consolidation, which is an interesting kind of separate point to my actual trade. But you can see when we broke out of phase one, we had consolidation and then a confirmed breakout, which happened to just express the liquidity in the channel up to a macro golden pocket. Boom. From there, we were in search of support. You can see where we found support. We came back and perfectly retested the top of this channel, which also ended up turning into a diagonal, upward, a sloping diagonal trend line at this point. At this point, it was the second touch. We got our third touch there, confirmed. So that wick at that touch, where that X on the chart is right here, is the answer to a question. The question being, well, the first thing being, it is what it is until it is what it isn't, until it becomes something else. And at this moment, it became something else. Now, this phase of price action is asking questions of what is it now? And what a potential answer was given right here. Maybe now we're doing this. There's a couple more another structural component to this was you can see we have this upper diagonal, and you can see the range in price action was wild here. We're making big, giant down moves with mini upward oscillations until we retested the previous structure, and then the range started compressing. Started getting this compression in volatility, lower highs, higher lows. So you're going to eventually get to a break point and get a breakout in one of these two directions, right? So it's going to ba, and then either boom or boom. We got boom. Just a side note, I just want to measure the elasticity of this pattern to see if we express that full range, which somehow we did, because this is wizardry, apparently. So we had these two components, market structural components. Just to touch on my stop loss, what I was referring to earlier was I placed it below these previous lows here and below this diagonal trend line. Because I know if it breaks this diagonal and this low, we're likely coming. I mean, I guess it might technically be a fake out until here, till this previous low, but I didn't want to hold for that to find out because we could either fall back to retest this top trend line of the previous channel, or we're falling back into this formation and continuing the downtrend. So that's where I placed my stop. I guess before I go into my exit, I will quickly make a point on the RSI here. I'm going to do this briefly because I've done this, I think, in my chart thoughts from a couple weeks ago, about a month ago. So sometime in April 2025, I posted a video called Chart Thoughts, EVGO, with the beautiful AI-generated electric car overlooking a vast valley of potential. And in that video, I explained how every time the weekly moving RSI crosses over its own moving average, you get these extreme moves. on this chart. So I'll just drop some verticals. I'm not going to leave these on long. You can pause it if you'd like to look. But you can see it marked a great entry point multiple times. And up until the phase change, which I'll remind you occurred right here. So everything to the left of this, all those vertical blue lines, that signal on the RSI occurred after a touch of the bottom trend line. So you kind of had this confluence or this contextual slash structural layer to add on top of this signal, which if you backtest it, literally has 100% backtest rate. So that's really the main thing. One thing I want to note that just kind of mostly to myself, some of you might find this interesting, is as you can see, let's pop up the RSI here. You can see actually right here, this is the first time in the history of this chart, which is only back to March of 2021. So it's not that much data. It's a new company. You can see we got this signal there, but then came back below the RSI for 1 week before going on. I want to mention two things about that. That occurred during this recent Trump tariff uncertainty. So there's a lot of things making outsized down moves because of the uncertainty in markets and the risk capital fleeing out or whatever exactly was going on is hard to say from my perspective, but there were a lot of things putting in crazy moves. So that's one reason that you could kind of discount that failed signal. The other thing is if I flip this SMA on the moving average to an EMA, it actually erases that false signal. So as far as I understand it, the EMA is an exponential moving average, which just weights, it gives more weighting to the more recent, the calculation weights heavier the more recent price action, or in this case, RSI data points. And so when I put an EMA on it, it erases that completely, and we get our signal here, which also came in with a touch of this structural, another structural layer of confluence would be this diagonal trend line getting its, I guess that'd be 1, 2, 3, fourth or fifth touch, not quite a touch, but it's holding that zone, which is significant. I'm gonna just pop my 50 and 200 on here real quick. You can see the reaction took us up to the 50. I'll just point out in the past when we had these reactions, the confluence of the RSI signal I just explained and the bottom touch of this trend line, we not only went to the top of the channel, but it was also a test of the 50 would have been a proxy for a pretty good exit. You see here, we didn't get to the top of the channel. We just got to the 50. Here, we didn't even get to either. Yeah, those were both signals also, but anyway, so that 50 period moving averages acts as a good area to kind of reassess the trade and potentially take profits or move a stop loss to. In this case, we didn't break it. We just came up to it, tested it, and now we're sitting here. So my exit was a combination of trading towards that 50 period SMA on the weekly, which I can't, you can see price sometimes would go beyond it. Sometimes it would barely make it to it. Other times it didn't make it to it. So I kind of split the difference and traded mostly towards it and exited on this 382. You can see 377 was my exit, which is basically exactly where that 382 is, depending on how accurately you draw it on. I'll drop a horizontal. You can see clearly a significant level, right? Right here, a little bit of consolidation. Remember, we're on the weekly, so that's like a month right there before a big move, resistance. When price finally did do the phase change right here, you can see it had a lot of consolidating that occurred right around that zone, and then it became support. So I expected it to act as resistance because we're coming to it from below. Yeah, and then I guess if you go to the daily here, you can see there's also this death cross and the 200 period moving average. So once we broke above the 50, retested it here, I was expecting a move towards the 200. Some of my targets were the 420 where this crossed 423 and 431. Price went to 417. So if I had held out and really wanted exactly those targets, I wouldn't have gotten it. But I was aiming in that direction was the kind of the idea. But that's everything for this trade. One thing I could have done better was my position sizing. I should have sized much larger than I did. This was a high certainty. This had this was not only I could have run a tighter stop if I was going to position size larger, but I had a high level of confidence in the signals I was taking here because we had this structural reasoning. We also had the RSI signature that has never failed in, let's quickly count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th time this signal has flashed, and it's 9 out of 9 so far, so I should have sized bigger. Anyway, that is my EVGO trade. Archive 56. Get back to 57.